Hello, everyone, and welcome. If you're listening or reading along the transcripts right now, imagine this as a long journey rather than a lecture. Perhaps you are lying down. Perhaps you are resting after a long day. Perhaps your eyes are slowly becoming heavy. That is perfectly fine. In fact, that is the spirit of this exploration. I want you to imagine that we are going to travel through the human heart slowly, patiently, carefully, understanding not just what it is, but how it lives, how it works, and how it sometimes fails. We will begin gently and move deeper and deeper into the science, the structure, the physiology, the emergencies, and the medicines that interact with it. Tonight, we are going to follow something very small yet incredibly important: a single red blood cell. A red blood cell is called an erythrocyte in medical language. The word erythrocyte comes from Greek roots, where erythro means red and cyte means cell. These cells are specialized for transporting oxygen throughout the body. Oxygen is essential for cellular metabolism, meaning the processes that allows cells to produce energy. Without oxygen, most cells in the human body cannot survive for long. So imagine that we are shrinking down to the size of a red blood cell. We are traveling through the bloodstream, floating within plasma, the liquid component of blood that carries proteins, nutrients, hormones, and many other molecules. But before we reach the heart, let us pause and discuss what the heart truly is. The heart is a muscular organ whose primary function is to pump blood through a system of vessels known collectively as the circulatory system. The circulatory system includes arteries, veins, and capillaries. Arteries are vessels that carry blood away from the heart. Veins are vessels that carry blood toward the heart. Capillaries are extremely small vessels where exchange of gases, nutrients, and waste products occurs between blood and tissues. Now, imagine the heart sitting quietly within the chest. Anatomically, the chest cavity is divided into regions. One of these regions is called the mediastinum. The mediastinum is the central compartment of the thoracic cavity located between the lungs. Inside this space, we find the heart, the great vessels, portions of the esophagus, and important nerves. The heart is slightly tilted inside this place. Many people imagine it as sitting perfectly centered, but in reality, about two-thirds of the heart lies to the left of the midline of the body. Its lower pointed tip is called the apex. The apex is formed mainly by the left ventricle. The upper portion is called the base of the heart, which faces backward toward the spine. Now, let us zoom closer. Before we enter the heart itself, we encounter a protective structure called the pericardium. The pericardium is a double layered sac surrounding the heart. The outer layer is called the fibrous pericardium. This layer is strong and somewhat rigid. It prevents the heart from expanding too much if blood volume suddenly increases. Inside the fibrous pericardium lies another layer called the serous pericardium. The serous pericardium has two parts: the parietal layer lining the fibrous sac and the visceral layer covering the heart itself. Between these layers exists a very thin space called the pericardial cavity. This cavity contains a small amount of liquid known as pericardial fluid. This fluid acts as a lubricant. Lubrication means reducing friction. Every time the heart beats, it moves slightly, and this fluid ensures that the surfaces glide smoothly instead of rubbing harshly against each other. Now imagine our red blood cell approaching the heart from the body. We are returning from the tissues after delivering oxygen. This means we are carrying carbon dioxide, which is a waste gas produced by cells during metabolism. Our body, our blood is now called deoxygenated blood. Deoxygenated does not mean there is no oxygen at all, but it means oxygen levels are lower compared to blood that has just come from the lungs. Our journey begins as we enter a large vein called the inferior vena cava if we are coming from the lower part of the body, or the superior vena cava if we are coming from the upper body, such as the head and arms. These are among the largest veins in the body. We now enter the first chamber of the heart, the right atrium. The word atrium refers to an upper chamber of the heart. The heart has two atria, the right atrium and the left atrium. Atria is the plural form of the word atrium. These chambers primarily receive blood rather than pump it far distances. Inside the right atrium, we notice interesting structural features. Some parts of the wall are smooth, while other parts have ridges, known as pectinate muscles. The term pectinate comes from a Latin word meaning comb like, because these ridges resemble the teeth of a comb. These muscles help the atrium contract more effectively without adding too much thickness to the wall. Now let us pause for an important concept. The heart does not mainly squeeze randomly. It contracts in a coordinated sequence. This coordination is controlled by the electrical conduction system of the heart. When we say conduction system, we mean specialized cells that generate and transmit electrical impulses. In the right atrium, there is a structure called the sinoatrial node, often abbreviated as the SA node. It is sometimes called the natural pacemaker of the heart. A pacemaker is something that sets the rhythm or pace of an activity. In the heart, this node generates electrical signals that initiate each heartbeat. These signals spread across the atria, causing them to contract. When the atria contract, blood is pushed downward into the ventricles. Now, we follow our red blood cell as it moves toward a valve. A valve is a structure that ensures blood flows in one direction only. In the heart, valves prevent backward flow. The valve between the right atrium and the right ventricle is called the tricuspid valve. The word tricuspid means three cusps or three flaps. Each cusp opens and closes like a small door responding to pressure changes. We pass through the tricuspid valve and enter the right ventricle. The ventricles are the lower chambers of the heart. They are responsible for pumping blood out of the heart. Compared to the atria, their walls are much thicker because they need to generate a stronger force. Inside the right ventricle, we see irregular muscular ridges called trabeculae carni. This term can sound intimidating, so let us explain it. Trabeculae means small beams or structures, and carni refers to flesh-like or muscular. These ridges help improve the efficiency of contraction and prevent suction effects that might interfere with blood flow. Another fascinating structure here is the moderator band. This is a muscular band carrying part of the heart's conduction fibers across the ventricle. It helps coordinate contraction. Now, the right ventricle contracts. This phase of contraction is called systole. Systole is the term used to describe the period when the heart muscle contracts and pushes blood forward. Our red blood cell is now pushed toward another valve, the pulmonary valve. This valve leads into the pulmonary artery. Despite being called an artery, the pulmonary artery carries deoxygenated blood. Remember, arteries are defined by the direction of blood flow away from the heart, not by oxygen content. We are now traveling towards the lungs. In the lungs, something extraordinary happens. The pulmonary circulation allows gas exchange. Oxygen enters the blood and carbon dioxide leaves it. This occurs in tiny air sacs called alveoli. Alveoli are microscopic structures with very thin walls that allow gases to diffuse. Diffusion is the movement of molecules from an area of higher concentration to lower concentration. Now our red blood cell is oxygenated again. Oxygen binds to a protein inside red blood cells called hemoglobin. Hemoglobin contains iron molecules capable of carrying oxygen efficiently. Now we return back to the heart. We travel through pulmonary veins and enter the left atrium. The left atrium is smoother than the right atrium because it mainly acts as a receiving chamber for oxygenated blood from the lungs. The walls are slightly thicker because pressures on the left side of the heart are generally higher. We then pass through another valve called the mitral valve. This valve is also known as the bicuspid valve because it has two cusps instead of three. The mitral valve is critically important in clinical medicine because diseases of this valve are relatively common. Now we enter the left ventricle. This chamber is the powerhouse of the heart. Its walls are the thickest of all chambers because it must generate enough pressure to pump blood through the entire body. When it contracts, it creates pressures around 120 millimeters of mercury in a healthy adult at rest. The left ventricle pushes blood through the aortic valve into the aorta. The aorta is the largest artery in the body. From here, blood travels to every organ: the brain, kidneys, liver, muscles, skin, and more. Now, let us pause and imagine something else. Instead of being a red blood cell, imagine being a cardiac muscle cell. Cardiac muscle cells are unique. They are striated like skeletal muscle, meaning they have visible bands when viewed under a microscope. However, they function involuntary like smooth muscle. They are connected through structures called intercalated discs. Intercalated discs contain gap junctions, and desmosomes. Gap junctions allow electrical signals to pass rapidly between cells. Desmosomes provide mechanical strength, preventing cells from pulling apart during powerful contractions. Because of these connections, the heart acts almost like a coordinated unit known as a functional syncytium. Now we must discuss physiology more deeply. Cardiac output is a key concept. Cardiac output refers to the amount of blood the heart pumps per minute. It is calculated by multiplying heart rate by stroke volume. Heart rate is the number of beats per minute. Stroke volume is the amount of blood pumped with each beat. During exercise, cardiac output increases dramatically because tissues require more oxygen. Now we must discuss emergency conditions involving the heart. One of the most critical is myocardial infarction. Myocardial refers to the heart muscle and infarction means tissue death due to lack of blood supply. This occurs when a coronary artery becomes shocked. The common name of myocardial infarction or MI is a heart attack. Coronary arteries are the vessels that supply the heart muscle itself. Without them, the heart would not receive oxygen. Blockage often occurs due to atherosclerosis. Atherosclerosis is a process where fatty deposits called plaques build up in arteries. When a plaque ruptures, a clot can form and suddenly block blood flow. Symptoms may include chest pressure, shortness of breath, sweating, nausea, and sometimes pain radiating to the jaw or arm. Now, let us talk about pharmacology. Pharmacology is the study of drugs and how they affect the body. Many drugs affect the heart. Beta blockers reduce heart rate and decrease the force of contraction. They are useful in hypertension and heart disease. Nitrates dilate blood vessels and improve blood flow to the heart muscle. Antiplatelet drugs prevent platelets from forming clots. Calcium channel blockers influence muscle contraction and blood pressure. Each of these medications interacts with the physiology we have discussed. And so our journey continues, beat after beat, cell after cell, as blood circulates endlessly through the body, sustaining life in a rhythm that began before birth and continues without rest. Thank you for traveling along this journey through the heart.